Hello everyone. In this video we're going to start with a new lesson which is about sexual and asexual reproduction. Here in this video we want to focus on the definition of asexual reproduction and we want to describe 4 ways by which organisms reproduce asexually. First, to start our lesson, let's start with these 3 statements just to check your information. Then we can understand them more after we finish from this lesson. Let's start talking about this true or false question. You have the first one, which is reproduction requires 2 parents. Always it needs 2 parents? Actually, no, because we will talk now about asexual and sexual reproduction. The second statement, some organisms reproduce by cell division. Some of them, yes. Okay. A new plant can grow from parts of parent plant, such as roots and stem. Do you think this one is correct? Actually, yes. And we will discuss this. Offspring of 2 parents always look like one of their parents. Actually, if 2 parents here. Okay, actually this one is false. Let's continue now to talk about our lesson. Here, because we want to talk about reproduction, actually. You know, the individuals or organisms, they won't survive forever. That's why the survivor for any species, that's why they are reproduced to what? To survive for the species. So it depends on their ability to the survival of any species depends on their ability to actually reproduce. You have to know for the reproduction, during the reproduction or from this process, this will allow the genetic information be passed on to a new organisms. يعني for example, for you took your genetic information from your parents. Your parents, they took it from their parents and so on, right? For reproduction involves various kinds of cell division. Actually, you have to know these points are very important. So here, let's start to talk about the types of reproduction. There are 2 types of reproduction: sexual and asexual. Actually, we're going to first start talking about what is asexual reproduction. We said for reproduction involves various kinds of cell division. For most, you have to see, look at this, most single-celled organisms and some multicellular organisms, they reproduce asexually. Okay, some multicellular, not all of them. Okay, now in asexual reproduction, what is the definition of asexual reproduction? One organism produces 1 or more new organisms that are identical to itself. Again, one organism, it needs only 1 parent, okay? So one organism produce 1 or more new organisms. These organisms exactly identical to this parent cell, okay? Or parent organism, okay? So here, let's continue. For the organisms that produce the new organisms or organisms, they are called the parent, we said, which is the parent that reproduce when it start to divide, and each organism that are produced are called what? Offspring. Okay, and this one, the new generation, are called what? The offspring. The offspring produced by asexual reproduction are genetically identical to their parents, which is very important to know this. Okay, no variation here, it's only 1 parent, so it will give exactly the same genetic material. Okay, so now for asexual reproduction, let's continue. If I want to talk about the asexual reproduction, Organisms produce asexually in many ways. There are many ways for the asexual reproduction. Prokaryotes like bacteria, like archaea, they reproduce asexually by cell division. Yani, for example, if there is a cell, a bacteria cell, this bacteria cell divides, makes cell division to give another what? Offspring. Okay? By cell division. So, some eukaryotic, including many multicellular organisms, reproduce asexually by more complex processes type of cell division called mitosis. For bacteria, don't forget it's a prokaryote, and for archaea, they don't make mitosis. Mitosis is specialized for eukaryotic cells because they have a cell membrane, they have a nucleus, and the mitosis is it's specialized for the division of the nucleus. Okay, it's for bacteria. Now we will talk about its way to cell division. Now when we discuss the ways of asexual reproduction, there are many ways of asexual reproduction. We will talk about these ways and examples of these ways. The first way of the asexual reproduction, which is called binary fission. What is the binary fission? Is a form of asexual reproduction in prokaryotes. So prokaryotes like bacteria, like archaea, how do they reproduce? They don't make mitosis, they are making what? Binary fission. What is the binary fission? Is the form of asexual reproduction in prokaryotes. It is a type of cell division. Okay? It is a type of cell division. I didn't say here it's mitosis or meiosis. Why? Because here I'm not talking about eukaryotes. Okay? During binary fission, the parent organism split into two, producing two new cells. These two new cells, they are what? Genetically identically, exactly like the parent cell. Okay? I'm going to show you now this video. Listen carefully.
Asexual reproduction only needs one parent. All of the offspring that result are identical to their parent. Asexual reproduction can happen in many different ways. Click each image to learn more about each type of asexual reproduction.
Now the first way we said, which is the binary fission.
Binary fission is common among single-celled organisms. The cell divides once to form two identical organisms.
Okay, so this is like bacteria. It gives like two bacteria, but they are identically, they have the same or exact genetic material as the parent. So let's move now to the second way of asexual reproduction, which is budding. For budding actually occurs when a bud grows on an organism and develops into a full-sized organism. Yani, you start to see like buds, okay, they are grows in the organism, and these buds, they start then to make what? To make a full organism, sized organism. And you have to put in your mind, budding is the result of mitosis. Yani this budding here, I'm going to show you this figure here before we start. This one here, this is the organism, all of it. Okay, just I'm going to show you. This is the organism, okay, original one. A new pod start to be formed, and this pod is happened from what? Mitosis. And it will give exactly the same, right? Again, you see, okay, so here from mitosis, so here this is the and this organism here, it's called hydra. It's an example of organisms that are producing by budding, okay, which is asexual reproduction. Listen now to this one.
In budding, a new organism grows from the outside surface of its parent. Organisms such as hydras and yeasts reproduce by budding.
هلا Hydra and other organism it makes or reproduce by budding is yeast. Okay, so you have to put in your mind Hydra and yeast, and these are eukaryote cells or multicellular organ. For yeast is unicellular, a single cell yeast, and multicellular Hydra. Okay, and it will give what? Exactly the same genetic material. Let's move now to the third way of asexual reproduction. The third way of asexual reproduction by spores. Okay, what is a spore? Spore is a specialized cell that can survive in harsh conditions, and these spores produce asexually by one parent. Yani one parent producing these spores, okay, are light and they can be carried by the wind. Example or some plants can reproduce asexually by example of spores. Sorry, I moved to the next one. I want to continue talking about spores. We said these are produced from one parent and they can be carried by wind. Okay, example of these spores like the fungus. Okay, that you see it sometimes on the wall, the fungus on the bread. Okay, these were before they were as spores, and these spores, when the conditions are good, start to develop and become into an organism. I'm going to show you this one.
When some organisms, such as fungi, reproduce asexually, they make special cells called spores. These spores can survive in harsh conditions and will remain dormant until conditions are right for them to develop into complete organisms.
Okay, so this is for fungus.
Some plants.
Just hold on.
Some plants do not need.
Okay, so let's continue. The fourth way now of the asexual reproduction, it's a vegetative reproduction. Here, for some plants, they have the ability to reproduce asexually by something it's called vegetative reproduction. Actually, here mitosis, you have to put in your mind, mitosis makes vegetative reproduction possible. Actually, new plants start to grow from stems, roots, or leaves. Okay. Runners are the above-ground stem from which a new plant can grow, and the tubers are the underground stem from which a new plants can grow. These are very important to know them. Also, you have to know the plantlets are the tiny plants that grows along the edge of plants' leaves. They drop off a plant and grow on their own. Actually, you can see this in potato. Sometimes if you leave it for a long time, starts to produce things on it. Because of the asexual reproduction. Let's look at this one here. Vegetative reproduction happens through mitosis. You have to put in your mind this one. Look at this one here. Listen to this carefully. This is potato, as you see.
Some plants do not need seeds or spores to reproduce. They grow new copies of themselves from stems or tiny plantlets that sprout from the parent plant. This type of asexual reproduction results from mitosis.
Okay, can you see this now? You can see this on potatoes sometimes. Okay, then these are 4 ways of the asexual reproduction. If you still have a question about these ways and you have to know examples of each one of them, you can send me your question. Thank you for listening.